Hello, my friends. My name is Andrew Fantasia, and welcome to Thumb Together. Today, we're going to be talking about Black Panther: Wakanda Forever together. Let's get started. Ba-da-ba-ba-da-ba-ba. The final film in Marvel's fourth phase has arrived. Black Panther: Wakanda Forever is dominating multiplexes across the world. I was fortunate enough to get a chance to see it, and we're going to talk about it today. But remember, this is going to be a video essay, not a review. If you want to hear me and Ryan J. Whitehead review the movie and talk about how we felt, you can do that by listening to the Infinity Rewatch podcast. You can watch the video version on the Digital Charcuterie YouTube channel, or you can listen to the audio version wherever you get your podcasts. No, this, like all of the episodes of the rebranded Thumb Together, is an educational essay, one which asks the question, what can the movie we're talking about teach us about filmmaking, storytelling, or both? So let's make like Namor and dive right in. Today's lesson is all about scope and time. Because here's the thing. Black Panther: Wakanda Forever clocks in at 2 hours and 41 minutes, making it the second longest MCU film after Avengers Endgame. And after viewing it in its entirety, I can say this. The movie works. It really, really works. But if it had been even a minute shorter, it probably wouldn't have. There is so much going on in Wakanda Forever. New rivalries are forged. All new characters and worlds are introduced. New relationships between pre-existing characters are revealed, and none of it is extraneous. It all fits tightly and neatly, working to serve the movie's plot. And at its bare minimum, that plot is this. With the rest of the world getting greedy for vibranium, a new secret civilization is revealed. They have vibranium too, but they're not as peaceful as Wakanda. What follows is 2 hours and 41 minutes of this story, unfolding layer by layer. And as soon as that story concludes, so does the movie. Even the mid-credits scene exists to put a cap on what we've just watched, rather than opening up some new box of toys to tease a future sequel. All of that runtime was necessary to tell this powerful story. And sometimes, a lot of times, whether it's through the fault of the filmmakers or studio interference or whatever the case may be, the industry tends to forget that. So today's lesson is, please take your time. You know what? Let's rewind about a month and talk about October. Specifically, let's talk about Halloween and how it ended. Halloween Ends hit theaters over a month ago and put a period, at least for now, at the end of the story that began all the way back in 1978. Now, there's a lot of controversy surrounding this extremely divisive movie, and I'm not here to get into that. Whether you loved it or hated it, I'm not here to try to change your mind. Personally, I kind of dig Halloween Ends. I really respect what it was trying to do, even though I don't think it was always doing it very well. Anyway, I'm only here to talk about one very specific scene at the conclusion of Halloween Ends, and that scene is mega spoilery, so if you don't want the ending spoiled, feel free to jump ahead to this time code. Okay, you have been warned. So in the climax of Halloween Ends, Laurie Strode finally gets the drop on Michael Myers, slashing his wrists and throat, and stabbing him multiple times until he bleeds out. He certainly looks dead, but we know better by now. And fortunately, so does Laurie. After claiming that he's dead, but not dead enough, Laurie and her granddaughter strap Michael to the roof of a car and drive him through town, displaying his corpse to the people of Haddonfield. Astonishment turns to resolve, and the townsfolk create a grim procession following the car to a local junkyard, where Michael's body is thrown into an industrial-strength shredder and crushed to a bloody pulp. This moment is such a big deal because being inexplicably immune to death was something we'd all come to expect of Michael Myers. This is his 4th movie in the new timeline and his 12th movie overall, and they've finally given this villain a definitive death. In Halloween 2, Michael had his eyes shot out and then was set on fire, but now this is the deadest he has ever been. It's cathartic not only for Laurie and Allison, but for the people of Haddonfield, who have been terrorized by the specter of this killer for the better part of 5 decades. Regardless of what you thought of Ends, this is without a doubt the most important moment of the entire Halloween franchise. And it ended up being one of the most disappointing parts of the movie for me, for one simple reason. It was rushed. The entire thing, from Laurie getting in the car, to everyone congregating at the junkyard, to Michael's body being pulverized, takes less than a minute. And after telling these characters' stories for so many years, this finale deserved way more than a minute. This needed to be a slow boil, a sad, quiet triumph of light over darkness, even if only a temporary triumph, as the movie posits. Like most slasher films, the Halloween movies are notoriously short, so much so that the original one needed to be extended before it could be played on television. Halloween Ends is the longest film in the entire franchise, and it's still less than 2 hours. The difference here is that none of these Halloween movies need to be 2 hours. They're all just as long as they needed to be. However, this scene in Ends is the first instance in any of these films when more time needed to be taken. By rushing through it, they did a disservice to a crucial piece of this puzzle. The sad thing is that this is a really common problem. Most studios typically try to make their films as short as possible due to simple economics. The shorter a movie, the more screenings it can have daily, the more money it'll make. Sometimes that's fine. A Minions movie doesn't need to be longer than, say, 86 minutes, and I think a lot of exhausted parents would agree with me on that. But when you sacrifice story for the sake of expediency, you're doing a disservice to art. No film should have to excise crucial beats in order to meet a target runtime. No book should have to omit character development for the sake of a smaller page count. Each and every piece of art should stand on its own. Thankfully, Wakanda Forever does. It takes its time. There's one last perfect example I'll leave you with. Let's talk about her. The Mona Lisa is probably the most famous painting in the world. And if you've seen it in person, or you know somebody who has, chances are you've heard the most common worldwide reaction, which is, I can't believe how small this painting is. The Mona Lisa's dimensions are 30 inches by 21 inches. The most famous painting in the world is actually relatively tiny. The Mona Lisa hangs in a room of the Louvre Museum called the Salle des États, or the State Room. And hanging up in that very same stateroom is another famous painting called The Wedding Feast at Cana. Painted in the mid-1500s by Paolo Veronese, The Wedding Feast at Cana is the most expansive painting in the Louvre Museum. Its dimensions are 267 by 391 inches. You could fit over a dozen Mona Lisas inside of it and still have room left over. The Wedding Feast at Cana includes the kind of staggering detail usually reserved for Where's Waldo books, including a noblewoman using a toothpick, and hidden cameos from the painter himself, some of his contemporaries, and even Suleiman the Magnificent, then current leader of the Ottoman Empire. One of these paintings is a small, quiet piece of art that speaks volumes while saying very little. The other is a gargantuan epic packed to the brim with color, minute details, and cameos. Kinda like a Marvel movie. Both of them are masterpieces worthy of the Louvre. Imagine if Da Vinci had been told to paint the Mona Lisa as a giant mural, or if Veronese had been forced to restrict the Wedding Feast at Cana to a tiny canvas. Neither of those paintings would work as well, and the world of art would be all the poorer for it. So, storytellers, whatever canvas you're using, please take whatever time you need. And that's all for this episode of Thumb Together. Thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to click on the bell and give love to the subscribe button and do all the other YouTube-y things that you do on YouTube. I will see you here next time, and until then, Wakanda Forever.